Microsoft 365 is a toolkit. It gives you lots of tools to do lots of things. Things like communication and collaboration. We could talk for hours about how you can use Microsoft Chat and how we can use Teams Chat and how we can use Viva Engage or Yammer as it used to be to deliver communication functionality across our organizations. We could also talk about the meeting functionality and the way in which we can do video meetings and we do whiteboarding and things like that. And that's before we get into the whole back end of Teams, which is Microsoft SharePoint and all the things we can do around storage with SharePoint. So lots of areas there. Power Automate, all the power tools we've got there, which allow us to create applications and workflows and things like that to enhance and to speed up processes within our organizations. And that's even before we get on to the whole of the the security umbrella that the functions within Microsoft Purview allow us to put in place to protect our data from getting into the wrong hands. Microsoft 365 is, I've gone backwards, I'll go forwards, is also gives you the rights to use over 25 different applications. For most of you, you'll be paying for these applications through your monthly subscription already. So you can see some of those will be very familiar to you. The ones that most people make the most use of would be Word, Excel, Outlook, and there'll be many in there that some of you won't recognize. People don't realize that they've got access to a whole forms mechanism. A lot of people still using third-party applications for creating forms and mechanizing forms within their organization. Things like Planner. I think Ben mentioned Confluence, was it earlier? Great planning application. But if you don't need all of that in-depth functionality in Confluence, there's a lot of functionality within the Microsoft 365 environment, within the Planner and to-do functionality that you can make good use of. Now, the problem is, if we just go and pick up these applications and try and find places to use them in our organization, then, as Barry said earlier, taking my analogy, it's like going into the garage, picking up a hammer, wandering around the house and looking for nails that need to be hit. The best way to start this process is always to look at the business functions that you have in place. Go and find where the problems are in your organization and then go to the garage and collect together the correct tools to create the solution to solve those problems. So I've just put some of the things up there that we've done with organizations. But really the challenge as IT people and as business managers within an organization is to go and look at the problems where you're finding there are processes that are inefficient and then knowing what's in your toolkit to come back to see how you can make use of that. And that's why we do this Art of the Possible session. It's really to show people in your organization the potential of Microsoft 365, the potential of what you can do with those tools. When we do a normal Art of the Possible, it's a 2-hour session. Megan and I act as a double act, and we will present that to a team from within your organization. And it's really important, if you wanted to have one of those sessions for your organization, that you gather together the right people from across the business so that it's not just you thinking how these tools can be used, but people from other departments who know where the problems are can look at that. And we'll cover the areas on the slide there. So we'll probably start with organizational-wide communication. How can you use the SharePoint intranet functionality to communicate across your organization to make it an effective way of communicating things? To move away from those all-company emails that get lost in your inbox or people reply all to and fill up your inbox with a load of rubbish and you don't really pick up the essential messages that are coming from there. We'll then talk about using the Viva Communities or Viva Engage or Yammer as it used to be called, and however many times Microsoft tried to rename it, I still call it Yammer. How you can use that to communicate within smaller groups and smaller communities in the organization. We'll then look at effective meetings. How are we going to use teams? What types of teams are we going to create? Are we going to create departmental teams? Are we going to create project-based teams? How are we going to use the tabs within teams to deliver the right functionality into that collaborative environment? Then we'll look at some of the other functionality around Planner and To-Do, and move on and then end up by looking at Viva Insights. So it's a whole 2-hour session. We're not going to do that today. I've asked Megan to kind of create some demonstrations, which is how we do this, is kind of use cases. So I'll welcome Megan to the stage, who's got to swap laptops so that she can deliver this session. We're probably going to have to pray to the demo gods as well to make sure that this goes smoothly, because we're going to do this in a live environment, and Megan's going to take that on. So let's just check we've got her screen up. Megan and I work together very closely on this kind of thing. Megan's a Microsoft certified trainer, as well as being our marketing manager and totally responsible for the whole event today. So she's doing well to break some time out and spend some time with us now.
Yes.
Megan.
Perfect. So, as Anthony said, we want to do a bit of a demonstration for you guys today. We've set this up as some scenario-based, where we've tried to bring certain applications together to show you how they can work together in a nice scenario. The scenario we are using is somebody is planning an event. What a surprise. It was very point of mind for me when I was doing that. So the first example that we wanted to go through today, and we are trying to show you some applications that you potentially may not already know about in Microsoft 365, or if you've heard of them, maybe you want to understand an example of how they may be used, or even how they can be brought together. So the first example we've got is we are using 3 applications. We are using Forms, we're using Power Automate, and then we are using Lists. So in our example, we're putting on an event, and we want some speakers and some exhibitors to be in our exhibition hall. Typical, isn't it? So what we've got here is, for all of our partners that we work with, we're sending them a form for them to complete the information, for us to gather the information about who they are, what sort of package they want for this sponsorship, who the contact is, etc. All of this information. Now, typically, we would have collected that via a phone call, which we would then have kept in our own notebook. We would have then lost the notebook, and we wouldn't be able to find that. Or you'd keep it in an email, and if I'm on holiday, Anthony wouldn't then be able to find it. By creating this form, and I've actually created this directly within the team using Forms, anybody in our team is able to collect the responses by clicking Collect Responses up at the top here, and send that out to any of our partners. And also what they're able to do is they're able to come in and see those responses. That's great for collecting that information, and also if you wanted to, you could analyze that information if you were using it for an example where you needed to analyze that data. However, for us, keeping it in that form, in those responses, probably doesn't give us the amount of ability to track that information, to edit that information that we would need. So whilst we've used Forms as the data collection point, and it is a really good way to do that, we've then used an application called Power Automate. So if I was to copy this and fill in this form, and this is where I'm already going to apologise for my spelling, because I can't spell at the best of times, let alone under pressure in front of people. So if I was to complete this form here, we then have Power Automate working in the background that will do a number of different tasks. Let me just type this in. There we go. So with Power Automate, what will happen is when that form is submitted, we have a couple of things happening. One, myself and Anthony will both get an email to say, company name has completed the form, click here to view the information. So that's automatically sent that to us to inform us that we have that. And then what we also have is we have Power Automate adding our fields and adding this information into a list. So within my team, I've set up a list. We've called it our sponsorship tracker. And then if I open that up, automatically that information that we've just had and the form that's just submitted should be in there. And it's not. This is why demos aren't great. But it should work, and it may just take a little bit of time. But what will happen is once that appears here, we'll have all the information. And as an example, if I click into Arctic Wolf here, all the information they submitted, so their name, their contact details, and all of that is in here. And then what we've also got is some additional fields that weren't in the form, but as a team, we want to be able to track. So in here, we've got, have they signed their contract? Have they given us their logo? Is it on the website, etc., etc.? And we as a team can go through, we can update this, and it just means that when I'm updating this information, when Anthony comes into this list, it's all up to date. He can see that we've got their logo. He can see they need a screen, and he can then action that. On top of that, we have the comment section here, so I could actually come in and tag Anthony, if I could spell, told you, and say, could you action the screen hire, please? Anthony will get a notification. He can respond on here, and again, all of that information is being tracked against the field and against this particular entry into this list, and we're not having to come away from lists and do it via email. It's all here in one location. So in that example, we've shown you how to collect the information using lists, how we've then used Power Automate when you're not doing a live demo and it actually works, for it to send you an email, for it to add that automatically into your list, and then how you can track that information in lists. And as we said, this is just one example of how we use this at Computer World and how we've set this up as a demonstration, but it can be used for a number of different examples that you can have. And Power Automate is great because it links a number of those applications within 365 together rather than just the ones we've shown you. Before I move on, do you have anything to add, Anthony?
I think people will be able to think of kind of simple things like that within their organisation at the moment, things like stationary ordering, bits like that that potentially, you know, used to be done on a bit of paper but then turn into just endless emails from people to whoever's responsible for doing the ordering, and it all goes into unstructured data stuck in your inbox and clutters that up. That, you know, the kind of thing that Megan's put together there probably took, what, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
At the most, to put that form together, just to write the little bit of Power Automate behind it, and drop it into a SharePoint list and add some additional fields. And it gives you that great way just to capture that information and process that information. And we do that quite a lot within our organisation, as you would imagine. And you can take that, the link to that form, and send it to people outside the organisation as well. So you can gather information from people outside of the organisation, or just people inside your organisation. Any questions about that? Can people see where that would fit into their organisations and would make things simpler? Don't all rush at once. I've noticed there's been a lot of information flowing from the stage out this morning to people and not a lot coming back, other than from our kind panel earlier, which was good. So do ask questions as we go along if you want to do that. Megs, you ready for demo number 2?
Yes. So the next demo that we want to show is just one application, but it's one that we see being increasingly used within our clients, especially since COVID, and then actually coming out of COVID even more so, of how people need to do that, how they're managing their own time, and how they're allowing people to book time with them. So Microsoft are great at names, and this is an application called Microsoft Bookings. Revolutionary. So what you may have seen when I submitted that form here is I've actually linked to the booking page that we've got here. Again, we've created this booking page as part of a team so that everybody can access it. We've added some admins to the back of it so anybody can amend it if we need to. But what we can do is we can send this link out to our speakers that are coming to the event, to our sponsors that are coming to the event. And if they want to book time with us, our team, one specific person within the team, we share this booking page with them. They can come in and they can select their service. So if they're a speaker, they select that they want a 15-minute call with us. They do actually get the opportunity to choose who they want to book that with, and that's just because that's the option we've given them. You can turn that off if you wish to. So I can select Anthony. And then from here, this will show Anthony's availability. So I will be able to see when he's available, the times he's available, and can book that. And if I was to change the service and then select Debbie, for example, we can see the availability changes compared to what Anthony's was as well. So what somebody can do is they can come in, select the speaker, or they can just select anybody that they want to speak to. So they've got the service, the staff member, the time, and then they just need to add in very simple details. Oh, we'll put that in. Any notes that they want to, and then they can book that. What will happen now is not through Power Automate, but just through bookings. Both the person that booked it, so Megan Warren at live.co.uk there, will get a Teams meeting invite, and the person, which is Debbie Kelly, will also get a Teams meeting invite. Now, the great thing about this is if I, Megan, needed to cancel, rearrange, or anything like that, I'm able to do all of this directly within that Teams meeting that's been added to my calendar automatically. So bookings is just a really good way if you have people that work with a lot of external clients, rather than doing the back and forth around, are you free Monday at 5? No, I'm not. And all of that back and forth, setting each of your people up a booking page, which realistically doesn't take that long, sharing that link with them, and they can share it with their colleagues, with external participants as well, just makes the booking process of time, meetings, all of that easier, and will save them and yourself probably a lot of time as well.
That's great, Megan. I think we work with a lot of legal organisations and accounting firms and things like that who book, have people who are booked out for external meetings. That saves so much time if they just have a page saying, it's this type of meeting that I want to book with them. It's the half-hour introductory call, or it's the full-hour session that I'm willing to pay for. Having that ability just saves so much time and so much toing and froing trying to get people to find the right time, and that's one of the legal companies reckon they've saved days and days of time in just getting those bookings at the right time when they're available, and that can create a Teams meeting, or it could be an on-premises meeting that you're booking in for, but it will automate the process of creating a Teams meeting. We also use that application to create a kind of COVID desk booking application for Devon and Somerset Fire and Rescue, so that people could, book. The resources they were booking were rooms, and they were able to publish that on their intranet, so people could go to the intranet, see which rooms were available, if they wanted to come in, see the size of the room, and be able to book that room as well, and manage it as well, because you go back and cancel it or rebook it. So that was a very interesting way in which we use that application. It's very flexible to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What have you got for us next, Meg?
So the next one, potentially the last one because we are running out of time, is probably my favourite one. I am a sucker for a list. I like to know what I'm doing. I like people to know what I'm doing, so if they need me, they can see what I'm doing. So we're bringing together a couple of different applications again. So as a team, if you are working on a project, you need to have a sort of central place that everyone can track where we are with the project, what we're doing, who needs to do what after a meeting, rather than taking your tasks all away and then in a week's time me saying to Anthony, where did you get with this? And he says, oh yeah, that was in my notebook and then I left that on the train. We can keep that all in one location. So we've set up a planner as part of this team, which we've then just named Project Plan. Top tip, if you're setting up a planner within a team, do not call it to-do list, because when you've done that across 5 channels, 5 teams, and you have 5 to-do lists, it's then very difficult to find out which to-do list you're in and where I'm meant to be. So we've given this one Project Plan, probably should have given it a better name anyway. And as you can see here, we've got a number of different buckets, as Microsoft refer to them as, that just break down the tasks that we have. And within each of these buckets, we then have the tasks that we have to do as part of this. So we've got things like add things to the website, discuss agenda times. We can come in and add some additional ones in here as well. And the great thing about this is, one, we can assign it to people. So if I was to add all the tasks in after a meeting and assign them to my partners and my colleagues, they would all get a notification on Teams to say that they've been assigned those tasks to do. We can come in and add a lot more information in here as well. So progress, we can update priority, we can add checklists and attachments. So there's so much information we can add to this that just means that everybody is on the same page with the tasks that need to be done. And what is great is once something's complete, we can mark it as complete, and then we can also see those completed tasks within the list here, as you can see. So rather than catching up with people, not knowing where they are with it, we can all keep up to date with our task list. We can all keep up to date with our to-do list for this project. And And we can always add more to it if we need to. So this is great for a team-based sort of task list that you need to do for a project, or just as a department in general if you need one of those. But then we also have our own to-do list. So what are the tasks I need to do that are outside of my department, outside of my project list and my project plans? So we have an application called To Do, which I have just opened up in the browser because at the moment that is probably the best way, until I go on to the next bit, to open this up. So as you can see here, this is very much like Planner. I have my tasks in here. I can add information into them. I can set things like due dates, reminders. I can repeat them. I can add sub-checklists and all of that. So it is really like Planner, but just for you on your own. The thing that this sort of created, the problem this created, is I have all of my team tasks in Planner. I have all of my own tasks in To Do. How do I bring those together? So what Microsoft have, and we're going to go back into Teams, is an app which I've got on the left-hand side just here, which you can add to your left side bar, which is called Task by Planner in To Do. Again, a very imaginative name, which brings all of this into one location. So I can see all of my tasks that are assigned to me, whether that's from a project plan, whether I have tasks in here. So I can see those project planner tasks here. I can see directly which plan they're referring to as well, so I haven't got to go and check that or go into all of my different plans to see what's there. I can see them all in this one location. And then just quickly, I can see those tasks in here as well. So whilst at the moment they're not all in one long list, they are in all that one sort of repository in that application here within Teams that just makes it a lot easier. And it just means you as an individual or you as a team can all keep up to date, keep a lot more organised by using these two applications that do come together quite nicely.
Excellent. So let's get our hands up. Who's learned something today? Oh, that's fantastic. That's really good, because that's what we're here for. Pardon?
I can go home now.
You can.
Yeah.
Your job is done.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think it shows the real benefit of that art of the possible type session. There's a barcode somewhere, isn't there, on my laptop probably, which we won't bother to swap back to, but I'll make sure it's available later. If you're interested in us, Megan and myself, delivering an art of the possible session to your organisation, which will cover some of the more simple things that you can do within Teams, along with some of the more advanced things that Megan showed today.